If you put two reactors or two plasmas and with a gravitational magnetic field, you lead to creation of what we call a free plasma. If you go back to the teachings, and you will see how we explained this creation of a free plasma without or with using two tangible systems. Here you have the same to add further to the knowledge. The gravitational field, oops, I should not touch. You have the gravitational field in the center and the magnetical field in the center. Because don't forget, you have totality of magnetical and gravitational field. So in a way, you have created a free plasma environment between your coils. You can decide the size, the strength of this. This is how we explain how plasmas come into physical matter entity. But then you have to remember what we explained this morning, that interaction of the magnetic gravitational field, if you create one smaller than the other, creates a gradient of flow of the fields, which in fact will dictate what is going to be in the center. Notice what I explained this morning. I did not tell you to make two similar size coils. I explained, use the two coils, center coils you have, the smaller one and a big one. That the gradient in the flow of gravitational and magnetical field creates the loop, creates the flow. When you have 160 turn or you have 80 turn, there is a rate of flow that you control from one to another. Then you put your system somewhere here that you control it. You want to control adding, or do you want to control taking from gravitational? Do you go more to the smaller gravitational system, or do you go to the bigger gravitational system for lower magnetical? So when you start designing these kind of things, then as I was teaching downstairs just now to the professor from Romania, he's a nuclear physicist as well, he understood very quickly where in our nuclear teachings, somewhere we got everything wrong. So what you got to realize is when you set up these systems, how we have to understand the point of interaction. The rest is a tool. The important thing is this point. If you understood this, if you understand how you can position, you will find out when you start positioning these, the distance between the centers will have a very big effect on your work. This tool, control tool of creating a plasma, is the control tool which I was explaining to you. Excuse me, Fabio, can you bring the blue box, please? It's in the lab. This is what I was explaining to you last week, that you decide what comes out of this. You press a button, you have water, you press a button, you have a banana, you have an orange. Now you understand, you should be able to understand how to do it, because you have a continuous flow of plasma from the system. When you make a system, make sure you have no matter state. Everything has to be in a nano-coated state. So what you have, you create a gravitational magnetic field of different strength. Here, now, you see what you have. Remember what I just showed to you. Increase the rate of flow from one ring to another in gravitational side. What does it mean? A heavier material. You can produce a gravitational magnetic field, for example, of, let's say, copper here. Then your system put in any environment, because it has both gravitational and magnetic field of the copper, in a copper mass, you create the magnet of the magnetic field and gravitational field of copper in that environment. Now you see how you start building magnets per demand. You want magnetic gravitational field of banana, you adjust it. You don't work on your rings, you work on the flow. In the plasma technology, matter state is irrelevant. The interaction which counts, the fields which counts. The Chinese doctor which built those systems has understood this, but he hasn't completed it. Now you see what we are looking for. The plasma reaction, can I have it here, please? The plasma reaction is, in fact, your decision. You decide how much gravity or a magnetic field in this part you want to decide to be released as a point of center. This tool becomes tool of adjustment. You increase magnetical, you reduce gravitational, you increase gravitational, you go up and down the scale in what you allow the filtering to produce. This is not going to be a job for tomorrow and people come out next day say, I'll produce this. The way to do it, the way you got to test it till you see what it is, it's very simple. You build the system, but try to repeat it. You build your gravitational magnetic field structure with your rings. You have your rings here. Then, for example, you put here a container of CO2, cans of CO2. Then you start playing. You start adjusting. You put another container here of CH3. You put another container of copper oxide here, all in gas. And then you start playing. Increase the gravity, reduce the magnetical, and then you start seeing what gathers here. You put another container with the same salinity, and then you watch which one reduces and what appears. Now you have found yourself a matching system. You take a banana, the way it was done by other people. It tastes like a banana, it is like a banana, or it feels like a banana. You put this water here. And then you start adjusting your system in gravitational magnetic field, that here you create a gravitational magnetic field that when you pick this water up and you taste it, it tastes banana. Now you record at this position, at this place, with this thing, because these systems you preset. It's not going to change. So now this is at this point, at this strength. is banana. Then you start developing systems, measurements that you know this is what you need in the space. This should not take more than 3 to 6 months to get a full spectrum of whatever we need, because this becomes the reference point in a space to produce the materials which you need by plasma. In a space, you feel like a banana, you have a point of reference. You have your tool with you. You put it at that position, you know 100% if you stand in the position of this container, you receive the energy of banana, which could be the potassium your body needs. Now you understand? Or is it still too difficult? I have somebody who's far, doesn't know where he's going to go. No? You don't see it? Now the problem is you have to make more coils. You made 3 coils to make the stacker. Now you got to make 2 coils, 2 more sets to make your control system. There's still more to come. This is not your flight control yet. But as part of the whole thing, as I said, we only teach plasma. So now you have to understand how to create plasma. What you take, what you give, what you release, what you allow, and in time, very soon, some of you will try something very interesting. You will start, just put a cup of water here and see if empty cup here start filling up with water. Then, once you achieve this point, which is one of the easiest to do, you start understanding that you can create as much water as you like, and this is what we are testing, what I explained to you. 800 liters a day should be normal. Because now you create gravitational magnetic field of the vapor gravitational magnetic field, which is floating in the environment. And as you know, 80% humidity, 15% humidity is the lowest we know anywhere on this planet. Center of desert areas. So there is plenty of moisture we can take out. Now you start understanding this is not very far from what you've been doing, all of you. That's why you are here. If you remember, we explained in the teachings, you put the copper plate nano-coated and you put the zinc, you connected the two, you created the gravitational magnetic field of a carbon, which in interaction with the water created the CO2 at the bottom. So you already have done this in a matter state. Now you're extending the knowledge to do it for anything. Here you had to have a nanocopper coated that the gravitational magnetic field of the nanomaterial in respect to the zinc was just about gravitational magnetic field strength of the carbon, which attracted the carbon from the environment in interaction with the water gave you CO2. This is what the plants do. Now, instead of having two copper nanoplates and a zinc plate, now you have two reactors, two coils. That's how simple it is. The same structure. This one is here, and this one is here. It's you who's going to decide how the field flows. The same as you decided how the field flows here, that somewhere here is carbon. Now you're doing the same thing with this. So it's part of now working through plasma, then working through nanomaterials. But you need, what I always say, the favorite word of Marco, gradient. You can't do. Yes, he says, I wish I would have never said that word. But here is 180 to 90. What about if it's 200 winding and 40? The drop is bigger. Remember part of the teaching, what we did? Oxygen. You have 16, 14, and 12, and 1. The magnetic field flow between these and between these themselves has led to a continuous flow of a plasma in this direction. So it leads to creation of life, amino acid. When you create a very large gap, step, you control more, then you can dictate a lot of things. So if you can produce a gravitational magnetic field in the system of hydrogen, then, sorry, not there, I'll go back. If you create the gravitational magnetic field of hydrogen in this space, then you start with hydrogen. Then you create it, you increase it with water, you have water, everything else you need. But if you bring the hydrogen here, if you can nanocoat with the lightest GaNs here, because now in the GaNs coating you put on your coil is your base limit. If you use a heavy composite GaNs, you're very powerful. You make the other one CH3, so that you create a bigger spectrum. Your job now is to create the biggest spectrum of fields that you can produce as many. Here, between the nano-coated copper and a zinc is only 6. Here, add as many GaNs, which can be done as a GaNs, and the slowest, the smallest here, which you can have access to, which is CH3. You can go lower, but you don't have access to it. Then, if this one is, for example, 120, you see the difference. 15 to 120. Then look what a spectrum of materials you can produce. Use plutonium, uranium GaNs on the top and CH3. Then you see the change. Then you see how you start creating, without anything, a flow in a gate. And this is the point which you are interested in. And if you put your cup on and you can measure the right amount, then you attract anything in your cup. But don't forget, only changes into matter state if you learn the technique of changing plasma to matter. Otherwise, you can stand here totally thirsty, and then after a few minutes just walk out as you had 2 liters of water. Because when in your body you stand here in a GaNs state, now you operate in a GaNs state. So you don't need to drink water. The plasma of the GaNs of the water converts to what your body needs. You don't need to drink. This is how you transfer money, or what they call it, water in a space to drinking. You don't go and drink. You create conditions where the cup or the position is created for the water, because don't forget, human race are not the only people who live by the liquid transformation in the body. So this is a normal process which is used to see the substances you need as the essence of life to keep the liquidity.